discussion is if the installer succeeds and is successful and has a good quality of life, that at the end of the day, that equates into the flooring companies that use that labor or hire that laborer out, makes us successful. So that's a little bit about me and how we started Go Carerra. Did that in 2017, launched our first version in 2018, and our current version is live since 20, I'd say September of 2020 or so. So it's a complete platform built around empowering the flooring installer, giving them the kind of construction accounting tools at their fingertips, and allows them to work with companies like Stuart and Associates, Preferred Flooring, anybody, anywhere, and kind of puts the power in their hands. So that's my story. Daniel already kind of went. How about you, Jose? You want to tell us a little bit?
Hey, first off, thanks for bearing with me while I was in the truck and making a transition here. So same thing. You remember your first day? I remember my first day was January 7th, 1998. At a Herman Miller furniture company here in Michigan. I started out as a 2-week temporary. 2 weeks turned into 2 months. 2 months turned into 2 years. I happened to bring my brother into it, during the summers when, like you said, when he was 12, when he was younger. On and off with a couple different companies in the beginning. Had a couple go-rounds starting my own business previously. So 2 other businesses before Preferred Flooring. And then it didn't really work out. Recession hit back in 2008, 2009 is when I got hit with it pretty hard, and brought everybody with me to another company to work as employees by the hour for this other company that I had experience with. And from there, we kind of stayed put for a while until we felt it was necessary for us to leave, until we felt we reached a cap. And we take pride in what we do, and like you said, it's the idea was definitely installer based. The idea of Preferred Flooring was for us to create something for the flooring installer to be great at one thing, to focus on the installation and the education. It wasn't as broad as it is now. It was more focused on just us and our abilities, but that's what we came up with the name, is everyone preferred Daniel or myself to be on their job sites, so it just only seemed fit to go Preferred Flooring. And yeah, 12 years later, now we've kind of adopted the sales a few years ago, and we're learning, and we're like anybody else who's starting out, man. We don't have there's no book to tell us what we got to do. We're still learning as we go. We ask advice from everyone that we meet.
Where are you guys located?
Grand Rapids, Michigan. So
awesome.
Technically we're Grand Rapids. We're in a suburb of Grand Rapids is where our physical location is at. So Walker, Grand Rapids.
Sweet. Well, a little bit about why the Huddle ever came to be. There's plenty of flooring podcasts out there. We're not really trying to, just have guests on in flooring overall, and only talk about the appropriate way to install sheet vinyl, although that's important, and we'll definitely get into some of that stuff. But as an industry, we struggle to bring on new talent. We've struggled with the labor shortage, like many of the specialty construction companies or construction industries do. But we kind of struggle even more than some of those due to not having, in my opinion, really, I guess the best way to put it is standardized training. So the training's real fragmented. There's good training out there, but it's real fragmented. So knowing which trainings are good and which ones are not. And, I think that, having discussions like this, what is a good training? What's a good training you guys have been to? What's a good training that some of our guys have been to, and what we've been to, or I've been to myself even. So a lot of that stuff, will come out through these huddles. I want to have fun. This is our first one, so it's obviously always starts off a little bit choppy and getting our footing. But the real purpose of the huddle here is for us to come together like football teams. And even though an offense and a defense have two separate agendas, they're still part of the same team. So when the industry or manufacturers come on and join us, you know, we got to remember we're all part of the same team. We just have different objectives. So I use a lot of football analogies. I love football, and I love what that sport means to life and what it does from a perspective of preparedness, proper training, all that stuff that kind of goes into that. Heck, if you're a great football player and you apply some of those principles to flooring, you're gonna be a hell of a flooring guy too. So, tell me, like, over the last year, what is your guys's personal challenges? What does that look like? Starting to sell materials and deal with GCs. I happen to believe one of our core issues is this idea that in construction that flooring guys or any specialty contractor, but it seems like flooring guys in particular are almost treated as less than you know maybe less than other trades, but certainly a lot of times not as a professional. So what's your guys' journey been like? Because you guys are, to me, I've gotten to spend time with you, some of the most professional guys that I've gotten the pleasure to get to know.
No, our yeah, thanks. Our journey's been, like I said, it's business, so it's been a little rough. We did realize early on that that is how the flooring industry was perceived, and we kind of wanted to break away from that because when you show up on a job, at 8 a.m. and everyone else has been there since 6, that's still technically early for a flooring guy, which is crazy to me. They're like, "Oh my God, you're here already? We didn't know. We thought you guys would be here at like 10." And you hear stories of guys getting there at 10 and leaving at 2, and it's like we didn't want people to look at us like being just another guy that's like that. We wanted to be a legit business and to be looked at as professionals because I think early on in my flooring career, a lot of people ask, what do you do? And it's flooring installer, and it's like, oh, I didn't know there was professional flooring installers out there. But I mean, really, that's what it is, right? It's you're going in there and you're being professional and installing a floor. So to be looked at as a professional, we wanted to actually look professional. So our logo, actually, our cousin did our logo, and it came from just asking him and paying him $25, and it's like now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to be looked at, like you said, like we're less than. So we strive to be better than anyone around, and that's really our footprint in the industry. Not even just over here, but like you said, you've talked to us, and people can see that everywhere. And we just want to let people know that you do start. Technically, we're still real small. I mean, we've got only 11 people in the company, so it's small, but you still have to look big time in order to have people take you seriously sometimes.
Well, you got to land work, and you got to have some stability there. But from the flooring, it's interesting to me how a lot of the companies that are out there were started by flooring installers. So the thought that we're not professional is a little comical to me. Many of the companies that are in, say, Fuse Alliance or StarNet, a lot of those companies were started by old flooring guys. So they've ran multiple millions of dollars a year in business. We got a $1 billion flooring contractor here in America. I mean, it's not small time. It's a bigger industry than most people really realize.
Well, it's not glorified.
You're walking on it.
It's not glorified, and I think that's the issue. Is that nothing against anybody else, but when they're pushing trade school as plumbing, electrical, and then HVAC is falling in there. When they're pushing all of that, and then you start looking at the lower spectrum where framing and roofers and concrete guys, they push all that before they push flooring. I asked a question in a group of 100 people about flooring, and they're like, who does the flooring? Uh, the framer, the finish carpenter. Nobody really had an answer for that, and it's like, yeah, you gotta bring awareness that there is a niche, right? And it's not even really a niche; it's an industry all its own, just like all the other ones.
Well, the why do you think that is? I mean, do you think it's because the training side of it? I mean, you can teach framing and roofing and things, but flooring, there's really four, now even 5 or 6 distinct disciplines in flooring. You got carpet, resilient, hardwood, tile, and say polished concrete and epoxy. So because of that, like, one technique doesn't flow over. You seam
Right.
carpet completely different than you seam sheet vinyl. I mean, you're not stretching sheet vinyl to match a pattern necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of different techniques. So I wonder if it's not a bit of that. I mean, you could you know, how do I say this? You go to like high school shop class, they can teach you how to build a lamp or something. That's what I built, right? A lamp. But uh, they may not be able to teach you how to actually install all these multiple floorings. Now, I think they got some stuff out there. The FCEF is doing some stuff at some of the community colleges. It's on a 10-week course, kind of introductory level. But, there's so many, in my opinion, just to answer my own question and then get your opinion on this, but so many of the flooring guys in our industry learned from a relative or something like that, and they have no way to prove or kind of, I don't even want to say prove, but like display or tout their abilities, because I mean, how do you say, like, I learned from my uncle, you know?
I think a
So
lot.
without a professional
Yeah,
support.
a lot of guys take pride in actually getting learning from their uncle or their father or their grandfather, and it's hard for them to go to a class, I think, and realize that they've been doing something wrong their entire careers. And people just, you need to stop looking at it like that, and you have to start looking at it like, well, if I'm doing something wrong, I want to learn how to make it right. And the only way to do that is to actually learn from someone else that knows the technique and kind of translate that into your everyday. But a lot of people are closed minded. Like the last CFI class we took, we asked some guys to go, and one of them said, "Why would I want to go and have them tell me stuff that I already know?" But they don't realize that all it takes is that one trick, man, to save you so much time doing something. So if you learn one thing in any class you go to in a seminar, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an actual certification, but um, continued education is paramount, because you learn one thing and it changes your day to day and makes things so much easier.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
so how do you change the hearts and minds of the installation community? I mean, you guys are installers, high quality installers. I installed. We've got some people on this call that installed. How do you change the heart and minds of the installation community to realize that you may have been trained, and maybe even trained well, from a relative, um, or a good friend. But you know, understanding that a standardized way of doing a job, um, and being able to kind of have proof of that's what I'm trying to get to here is
Yeah.
like, you go to a doctor's office, they got their doggone diplomas and their all their stuff on the walls, or any profession.
Well, they have their
Not
license
that we're
out.
doctors, but they have their stuff on. They're proud of what they've accomplished in training, in learning. Not They don't put their operations on the wall. They put their certifications and their diplomas and
Their
their
accolades. Yeah.
achievements on the wall. So why do we not have that type of pride in going and learning our trade?
I think there's a trickle effect, and I'm only, obviously this is my opinion, and I'm going to go back to when I started doing flooring, is everybody had a perception that the flooring guys were the bottom of the barrel, right? Like they couldn't make it in another industry, so they ended up on the floor. We didn't, when I started, and people I worked with, we didn't do anything to make us look any better either. We weren't the most presentable face to face. We weren't the most articulate when it came to sitting in a progress meeting or holding a conversation. But that's individualized, right? Typically, the one in charge was the one sitting in all those meetings. But from the top down, there was never any type of form that we had to stick to. We didn't have any structure from the top down. There was no, electricians got to be licensed to do specific work. A plumber's got to be licensed. They have to pass inspections. There's a lot of different things that they have to abide by and books that they have to follow 100% in order for them to become successful and move on to the next step. They have hours of apprenticeship, hours of training under certain levels to keep moving up. And that right there, that process, just the process alone, gains respect visually. And flooring installers, we don't have that. It might have said on a commercial project, it might have said must be installed by a certified installer in a particular material, right? That didn't always get followed because certified installers were very slim, and honestly, they're still kind of slim, because somebody who's been installing for 20 years does feel like they don't need to go get that certification, right? At one point, Daniel was like, hey, I told Dave, hey, you gotta go get it. We started talking, go get a certification. And then it came down to me, and I'm like, you know what? I just kind of want to get a certification to justify what I've been doing for years. Like, it's not even for anybody else out there, it's for me.
I bet you learned something though. We sent some guys to a CFI, and there's multiple other organizations, by the way, but it just happens we sent some guys to CFI that had been just that. They learned from their uncle, literally, and they were good installers. They did a good job. But they went to a CFI class, and when they got back, they literally were like, dude, I was going because you were kind of on me about going, but I actually learned some stuff.
Yeah.
And they'd been doing it for 10 or 15 years by that point and learned from their uncle. The thing is it seems to me it's kind of like the, when using school and they had to get in a circle and you tell somebody something, and by the time it got back around to you is completely different.
Yeah.
I think that some of the trainings are the same way. Maybe their uncle got certified, or somebody down the line was properly trained, and then as it gets a little bit diluted. And that's why I think that certifications are so important, and trainings in general, certifications, workshops, that kind of stuff. I think they're important because it re-ups what you know. It can reaffirm what you've been taught, but also you're going to probably pick up some key pieces there. And frankly, you can make a good living in flooring. And so I'm hopeful that over time, as this webinar, podcast, whatever we decide to call it, as we come together and huddle every week and bring in some of the manufacturers, possibly some of the training entities, whoever we can get to join us, that we can start to kind of shift the paradigm a bit and open people's mind to the fact that the installer in particular, that proper training, if you build a good foundation and then you learn from somebody else, it's always better, in my opinion. So hopefully we can kind of change that atmosphere. I don't know how else to say it, but I know the entire industry is trying to solve this problem, but nobody else is getting together with, all facets from installers. I would love the day when the Huddle has, 5 or 10, 15, 20, 100, I don't care, installers, and then the CEO of Shaw or somebody like that, where we're all together coming up, understanding what the big problem is in our industry, and we know what it is: labor. We're not even appropriately using all the labor we have, let alone bringing in new blood. So some of those things are starting to happen, but it's without input. I think without input from the installation community, you got a lot of CEOs out there with different training organizations and industry organizations just kind of making the call as best as they know. So maybe we could be a voice for the installation community, and I'd say the service side of the business in general, not just not the manufacturing of the products. We'll get those guys on, but the service side. And so we're going to keep these things short each week. We'll see how they go, but somewhere around 30 minutes. And so each week we'll also take some, we're in the process of kind of formatting a few things that we did not have ready this week, but each week we'd like to take some questions from the from the audience, maybe answer them or just discuss them. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm not saying you guys have all the answers, but we can sure as hell discuss this stuff and see what we come up with. What comes out of a good discussion is sometimes, better than one guy trying to answer every single question. So
100%. And it's always good to hear someone else's opinion and voice. If regional struggles might be different, in your area than my area, but it's always nice to hear what's going on, to see what's going on, and to learn, because you guys might be 2 years in the future from where we're at, or vice versa. And if there's some scenarios from other installers that are out there, or if they've already hit some scenarios, that hey, this is the place to bring it all out. Let's talk about it. Let's help one another. It's about bringing our industry to the forefront for one another.
Yeah.
There's too many installers that think that every other installer is their competition, and what they don't realize is that we're all in this together. And if we don't start acting like that and kind of bridging the gap with just the installation community, we'll never do that with the retailers and the stores and stuff like that. It's got to start somewhere, and us as installers have to realize that, man, we got to start talking to each other, not as competition, but as equals, and learn from each other. That's a big thing, right? We were talking about classes and all this stuff, and just talking to some people, I can learn. I have learned a lot from just talking to installers like we're talking now. And it's crazy the amount of information that one person has that you don't, and then you just feed it right back to them on something that they don't know. And we just have to start feeding off each other and start trusting each other, really, because as a community we're kind of broken up, and it's time to come together.
Well, how do we, that's a great point. I mean, at the end of the day, quality of life for an installer, specifically the independent installer, right? Because he's not under the care of a company. He is a independent installation company himself or herself. With that being said, like, the only way to change the industry is for the installation community to band together, come together, discuss things, have some, that's the only way you're going to get pricing up. If you ask any flooring company at all the conventions I've been at, most of them want to pay more. But the reason they don't pay more is because their competitor down the street's not going to pay the same, and they're going to lose out on work if they up their labor rates. Well, if the install community came together under one kind of roof and made some decisions there, where it doesn't matter which company they're working for, that their rates are going to start bumping up. Well, eventually the entire industry rates start going up, right? If I'm paying the same as the guy down the street, or the installers in our community are charging the same for me as they are down the street, then when it bumps up a little bit, and we use Go Carerra. A little plug for Go Carerra is it keeps all of um, the power in the installer's hands to negotiate their pricing and charge what they feel is appropriate for their skill level. That being said, if it's that way throughout the entire install community, then you can start to bump up rates. Installers can start to get paid more. Companies can charge more, and you don't get this throat cutting scenario where if you're doing contract work now, so you guys know, like, if you pay way more than your competitor down the street in labor, I mean, as good as you guys are, as good as we are, at the end of the day, we're not getting every job.
No.
We're not. You guys aren't getting every job you bid. We've lost work because our competitor pays, I won't even name the rate, but really cheap for certain items, and we just can't compete with them. We refuse to go down that low, and
That's a matter of
to beat up
education from
the
those
installer.
installers.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
Well, I
interrupt.
just think that if we come together, and there's a lot of companies that I think sit in the same chair as we do, and a lot of installers out there want their quality of life to be that they don't have to work 90 hours to make a living. And I think that as an entire industry, we have to address that. And if we can address that appropriately and give a mechanism that allows installers to, you know, have the power, I think dealers and retailers and flooring companies, flooring contractors will start to bump up. I know it's worked for us. We
Well,
use
everybody's going to
GoCarrera,
be able
and
to benefit from it. It brings visibility to the installers. It brings visibility to skill set, right? You don't want
yeah,
you don't want a Joe floor guy to go and install X material for you when his experience is limited. You want that to be a success for you, for the installer, for the end user, and that's what this is about. It's about bringing visibility to strengths, right? You don't have to exploit anybody's weakness, but if you bring their strength out in front and say, hey, this is what I'm strong at, then there is no question, there is no doubt, and I think that's why this platform is going to be great for anybody. It's going to benefit the flooring store, the manufacturer, the installer, the commercial property owner, the business owner, the homeowner. It's going to, I mean, it's a great tool.
well, getting the right guy on the project is 90% of it. And right now, because we don't have this standardized way of being able to assess what an installer can do, so there's only a few trainings out there that perk my eyebrows and make me say, oh, that guy has to be good if he has that certification. Outside that, there's not a college, there's no degree to get, and so we had to build something that allows the people who sell the labor to be able to hire the labor based on the skills and ability of that labor provider. And I feel like if we continue down this path, it will ultimately result in better installers, better industry and hopefully better flooring companies too, because we can all get better. So with that, you guys got any closing words? I'm going to close this off here and sign us out.
Never stop learning. I was once one of those guys that, like I mentioned earlier, when he was like, "Well, am I gonna go there so they can tell me something that I already know?" And once you do your first certification class, you realize that, I mean, like I said, I was doing things wrong, and you translate that into your everyday and realize that you're not a know-it-all. And once you realize that and figure out that you can learn something new every day, you take that with you in every aspect of your life, and it'll help you out everywhere, not just the flooring industry.
Yeah.
I would say, I would add to that, or to this, is if this is your career, this is what you're choosing, then invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Even if it isn't investing in a certification or anything like that, invest in yourself. Whether it's family time, personal time, or you want to invest in your business. If you want to work 90 hours a week, I understand. I was there. If you only want to work 40 hours a week, I understand. I was there. If you only want to work 20, that's okay too. But invest in your craft. If this is your career, invest in yourself. Education, tooling, whatever. Just put yourself forward. Put yourself in the forefront of your own life.
Yeah. So put your knowledge and your career, at the top of your list of things that you need to do and your goals, right? So awesome. Well, thanks for joining us this week, guys. Got off to a bit of a rocky start, but we're gonna get this thing rolling. We'll be in some good conversations down the road. So thanks for joining us, and appreciate everybody coming. And we'll chat with you guys next week.
All right. Thanks,
Awesome.
Paul.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Recording
I don't think it was done.